Every family has their traditions, and in ours, Mother's Day was sacred. From the time my son Nathan could hold a crayon, we'd made it special. Hand-drawn cards gave way to breakfast in bed, then to brunch reservations as he grew older. Even through his turbulent teenage years and college days across the state, he always remembered a delivered bouquet, a thoughtful card, at minimum a heartfelt phone call. Until this year. I woke up on Mother's Day with that familiar flutter of anticipation. 63 years old, and I still felt like a child on Christmas morning when it came to these little celebrations. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My husband Tom had passed 3 years ago, and our daughter Melissa lived overseas with her family. It was just me in our too-big house with its creaking floors and sun-dappled kitchen. I checked my phone, no missed calls, no text messages. "He'll call later," I assured myself, padding to the kitchen to make my own coffee. "He's probably just sleeping in." Nathan was 32 now, a successful architect with his own firm in the city, about an hour's drive away. He was busy, I reminded myself. Important. Adult children have their own lives, their own priorities. I understood that. By noon, my phone remained silent. I checked my email, my voicemail, even my spam folder. Nothing. I called Melissa, who was living in Singapore. The familiar chime of the video call sounded twice before her face appeared, slightly pixelated but beaming. "Happy Mother's Day, Mom," she exclaimed, her 2 children crowding into the frame to wave at me. "The package should have arrived yesterday. Did you get it?" I had. A beautiful silk scarf, artisan chocolates, and handmade cards from my grandchildren. "It's perfect, sweetheart, thank you." We chatted for nearly an hour. She asked if I'd heard from Nathan, and I made an excuse about him probably being busy with a project. I didn't want her to worry or to think poorly of her brother. Families are complicated, and I'd long ago decided never to play mediator or encourage friction between my children. After we hung up, I busied myself with gardening, determined not to check my phone every 5 minutes. The peonies needed deadheading, and the vegetable beds were ready for summer planting. The sun felt good on my back as I worked, but I couldn't shake the hollow feeling in my chest. By evening, I'd run out of distractions. I showered, heated up leftover lasagna, and settled on the sofa with a glass of wine and the book club novel I'd been neglecting. And still, nothing from Nathan. At 9:37 p.m., I finally allowed myself to acknowledge the truth. My son had forgotten Mother's Day entirely. I turned off my ringer and went to bed early, burying my face in the pillow so I wouldn't have to acknowledge the tears that came unbidden. It wasn't just about the day itself, it was what it represented, the steady erosion of my importance in my son's life, the growing distance I'd felt but tried to ignore. Monday morning came with the perfunctory ping of belated Mother's Day texts from casual friends and distant relatives. By then, I'd composed myself enough to respond with cheerful emoji and exclamation points. No one needed to know how I'd spent the evening before. I considered texting Nathan myself, something casual and light. "Missed hearing from you yesterday, hope all is well." But a small, wounded part of me resisted. I'd spent my entire life as a mother making excuses for my children, smoothing over hurts, being the bigger person, always understanding, always forgiving, always reaching out first after disagreements. What if just once I didn't? The thought was so foreign, so counter to my nature that it almost scared me. "That's not what good mothers do," whispered the voice in my head that sounded suspiciously like my own mother. "Good mothers don't keep score." But this wasn't about scorekeeping. This was about self-respect, about acknowledging that relationships, even between mothers and sons, should be reciprocal. So I didn't text. And as the day stretched into the next and then the next, Nathan didn't reach out either. 2 weeks later, my phone lit up with his name. I answered immediately, heart racing. "Mom, hey," he said, his voice casual as if no time had passed. "Sorry I haven't called. Things have been crazy with this new development project." I swallowed the hurt, the questions, the indignation. "That's okay, honey. How are you?" We talked for 20 minutes about his work, his girlfriend Courtney, the new restaurant he'd tried. Not once did he mention Mother's Day. Not a belated wish, not an explanation, not an apology, nothing. When we hung up, I sat in my garden chair for a long time, watching the birds at the feeder. Something had changed. Or rather, something had finally become clear to me. Nathan wasn't malicious or cruel, he simply didn't think about me unless he needed something or unless I initiated contact. I had become an afterthought in his life, a checkbox on a to-do list, easily forgotten and apparently unworthy of an apology when he did. Summer unfurled in its usual way. I volunteered at the library, tended my garden, met friends for lunch. Nathan and I fell back into our usual pattern of occasional calls and sporadic texts. Neither of us mentioned Mother's Day. If he realized his oversight, he never indicated it. If he sensed my hurt, he never acknowledged it. And then, as August approached, I began receiving the usual birthday reminders from social media and my digital calendar. Nathan's birthday was August 17th. He would be 33. For as long as I could remember, I'd made his birthdays special. When he was little, there were themed parties, dinosaurs and space and superheroes. As he grew older, we adapted to his changing interests. Tickets to baseball games, camping trips, driving lessons in Tom's prized vintage Mustang. Even after he moved out, I always sent a care package, made dinner reservations, or at minimum called first thing in the morning with the same silly birthday song I'd sung since he was a toddler. This year, as I browsed online for potential gifts, a thought occurred to me, startling in its simplicity and against everything I thought I believed about myself as a mother. What if I did exactly what Nathan had done on Mother's Day? Nothing. The idea felt both liberating and terrifying. It went against every maternal instinct I possessed, but the more I thought about it, the more it seemed like the honest response. Not vindictive, not petty, just a natural consequence, a reflection of the relationship as it actually existed, not as I pretended it to be. I closed the browser tab with gift ideas and set a reminder in my phone. Not for Nathan's birthday, but for the day after. I would give myself permission to let the day pass, unmarked, and then I would check in as if nothing unusual had happened, just as he had done. It wasn't a decision I made lightly. In the weeks leading up to his birthday, I questioned myself constantly. Was I being childish, manipulative? Would this irreparably damage our relationship? But another voice, stronger now, asked different questions. If our relationship could be damaged by me simply mirroring his behavior, what did that say about the relationship? If I was constantly accommodating his forgetfulness while never having my own needs acknowledged, was that truly a healthy dynamic? August 17th dawned bright and clear. I went about my day with deliberate normalcy. I weeded the garden, I met my friend Susan for lunch, I started a new puzzle on the dining room table. I did not call Nathan, I did not send a text, I did not post on social media. Just as he had done on Mother's Day, I let the day pass without acknowledgement. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. At 8:46 that evening, my phone rang. Nathan's name and face lit up the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hey, Mom," his voice sounded uncertain. "Hi, honey, how are you?" A pause. "I'm okay. Did something happen today?" The question hung in the air between us. I could have played dumb, pretended I didn't know what he meant. Instead, I chose honesty. "No," I said calmly. "Just thought I'd follow your lead." Another pause, longer this time. I could almost hear the gears turning as he processed my meaning. "My lead? What are you talking about?" "Mother's Day," I said simply. "You didn't call, didn't text, didn't even send a forwarded meme, so today I did exactly what you did." The silence that followed was deafening. I waited, heart pounding but resolved. "Mom, that's..." He stopped, seeming to search for words. "That's really petty." I had anticipated anger, defensiveness, even guilt. What I hadn't expected was dismissal. "Is it?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "You forgot a day that's important to me. I forgot a day that's important to you. Seems pretty straightforward." "That's different," he insisted. "Mother's Day is just a commercial holiday. It's not the same as someone's actual birthday." I let out a small, sad laugh. "Different how, Nathan? Both are days we set aside to celebrate people we love. Both involve taking 5 minutes out of our busy lives to say, 'I see you, you matter to me.' How is one more valid than the other?" "I can't believe we're even having this conversation," he muttered. "I've been swamped at work. The Henderson project is taking over my life. I barely know what day it is most of the time." It was the perfect opening for me to do what I'd always done, sympathize. make excuses for him, prioritize his feelings over my own. To be the mother who understands everything and asks for nothing in return. Instead, I said, I understand being busy, we're all busy, but we make time for what matters to us. So you're saying I don't matter to you? His voice had an edge now. No, Nathan, I'm saying that's how you made me feel on Mother's Day. I took a deep breath. And before you dismiss that as me being too sensitive or making too big a deal out of a Hallmark holiday, I need you to understand something. It's not about the day itself, it's about the pattern. What pattern? He demanded. The pattern where I'm always the one making the effort, where I'm always the one who calls first, who remembers the important dates, who asks the questions about your life, where I'm always available when you need something, but apparently so forgettable that an entire day dedicated to mothers can pass without you sparing me a thought. The silence that followed felt heavy, charged with things unsaid. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. I didn't, he started, then stopped. I didn't realize you felt that way. How could you? We never talk about it. I never bring it up because I'm always afraid of being the nagging mother, of pushing you further away. But the truth is, Nathan, I deserve better. Not because I'm your mother, but because I'm a person who loves you and has always shown up for you. More silence. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, I forgot Mother's Day? Yes, I confirmed gently. Completely. But why didn't you say something? I sighed. Why should I have to? I heard what sounded like him sitting down heavily. I'm sorry, he said finally. I really am. I don't have an excuse. It was the first genuine apology I'd heard from him in years. Not, I'm sorry, but, not, I'm sorry you feel that way, just a simple acknowledgement of wrong. Thank you, I said. So this was what? A lesson? There was still a hint of defensiveness in his voice. No, Nathan, this was a boundary, a way of saying I won't keep accepting less than I give. He was quiet for a long moment. I never thought of it that way. I know. I've been a pretty crappy son, haven't I? I smiled sadly, though he couldn't see it. Sometimes, not always. We talked for nearly an hour after that. Really talked, in a way we hadn't in years, about expectations and assumptions, about how he'd taken my unwavering support for granted, about how I'd enabled that by never expressing my own needs or disappointments. I should let you go, I said finally. It's getting late. Mom? His voice had lost its defensive edge, sounding more like the boy I remembered than the distant man he'd become. Can we do a birthday dinner this weekend? I'd really like to see you. I'd like that too, I said, and I meant it. The following Saturday, Nathan picked me up for dinner. He had made reservations at an upscale restaurant I'd mentioned wanting to try months ago, a detail I was surprised he remembered. When I got into his car, there was a bouquet of peonies, my favorite, on the passenger seat. Happy belated, I said as we were seated, raising my water glass in a toast. He clinked his glass against mine. Happy belated Mother's Day. Over dinner, Nathan seemed different, more present, more attentive. He asked questions about my life, really listening to the answers instead of waiting for his turn to speak. He mentioned coming over to help with some repairs I'd been putting off around the house. Small things, but meaningful. As we lingered over dessert, he said, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about patterns. I nodded, letting him continue. I realize I've been doing the same thing with Courtney. Taking her for granted, assuming she'll always be there no matter how I behave. He shook his head. It's not the kind of relationship I want, with her or with you. Awareness is the first step, I said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. I'm proud of you for recognizing it. He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. I'm trying. I might not get it right all the time, but I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. Driving home, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. Not because everything was magically fixed, one dinner couldn't undo years of imbalance, but because something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in our adult relationship, I had honored my own feelings as valid and important. I had set a boundary, uncomfortable as it was, and the world hadn't ended. In fact, something new and potentially stronger had emerged from the temporary discomfort. Over the following months, there were still moments of forgetting, of falling back into old patterns, but there was also a new awareness on both our parts, a commitment to building a relationship based on mutual respect rather than obligation or assumption. The next Mother's Day, Nathan showed up at my door at 8 a.m. with coffee, croissants, and a handwritten card that made me cry, not because the gesture itself was extraordinary, but because of what it represented. A choice to see me, to prioritize me, to acknowledge our relationship as something worthy of nurture and care. "Happy Mother's Day," he said, wrapping me in a hug that felt like coming home. "Thank you for remembering," I replied, meaning so much more than the day itself. As we sat in my kitchen, sharing breakfast and easy conversation, I realized that sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and for those we care about is to stop accepting less than we deserve, to speak our truth, set our boundaries, and trust that the relationships meant to flourish will adapt and grow stronger for the honesty. It's a lesson that took me 63 years to learn, but one I'll never forget, that true love, between mothers and sons, between any two people, must be built on reciprocity, respect, and the courage to be real with each other, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Because in that discomfort, in that vulnerable space of truth, is where genuine connection becomes possible, where relationships transform from what we pretend they are into what they truly could be.